Today we're getting under the hood of women's health with Jen, the General Counsel and Chief Human Resources Officer at Omnicom Health. She is passionate about issues of equity and inclusion and works hard to amplify women's voices. Jen will get under the hood of breast cancer. When were you first diagnosed with breast cancer?
In September of 2024.
What was your journey to diagnosis like?
Sort of a surreal experience. I think no one goes to the doctor thinking that anything will be wrong. You just go for your normal checkups. I believe that someone or something was looking out for me because in August of 2024, my friend was in my backyard. She leaned over, she said, "You have a lump in your armpit and you need to go to the doctor." And after I asked her, "Why are you looking at my armpit?" She said, "I'm telling you, you have a lump. You need to go to the doctor." So I went, and the gynecologist said the same thing. "Why is your friend looking under your arm?" She did an exam. She said, "Did you feel a lump? Do you see a lump?" I said, "No." She said, "Well, everything looks fine, but you're actually overdue for a mammogram." And then I went for my mammogram, and that's where they first discovered calcifications in my left breast.
Can you share your initial reaction when you were first diagnosed with breast cancer?
Oh my goodness. It was 11:45 p.m. on a Friday night. I'm a single mom. My son was at his dad's, and I was checking my phone neurotically because that's what I do at night. And I saw that in an email from my healthcare provider, and it said test results. And I opened it up. And when I opened it up, I saw the words ductal carcinoma in situ. And I started hysterically crying. I threw up a little, and I called my mom, who's a saint, and she lives about 40 minutes from me. And she said, "I'm coming over," because all I said to her was, "Mom, I have cancer."
What is the biggest challenge you face during your treatment?
I think giving myself grace is something that is very hard for me. I'm very harsh on myself, very tough critic. I think women have so many obligations and so many expectations, and you think your life is supposed to be perfect and you look perfect and everything's perfect all the time, and that's not the way it is. So I've gained weight during treatment. I've not felt the greatest about myself. I'm self-conscious because I'm still waiting to do my reconstruction surgery. And I'm trying to reframe the way that I'm thinking about the journey and myself to give myself space.
What has your support system been throughout this journey and how'd they help you?
This may make me cry. My mother is truly a saint. She has been there every step of the way. She's never missed an appointment. And my dad, who has passed away, I think he was the one watching out for me and whispering in my friend's ear to look in my armpit. But my mother moved into my house for approximately 4 weeks. I had friends who took my son, for the weekend after my surgery, and really just an abundance of love from friends and family. They've shown up with meals. They've offered to drive me places. They've come to appointments. I have a friend and a colleague at work who was on speakerphone when I was talking to my oncologist because she knows all the science of it. And so they've done things like that. And they've also encouraged me to sort of sit still and be able to take help, which is not something that I'm good at. I'm not really good at asking for help either. So I think they've helped me a lot, especially my mom, in saying, it's time to take care of you for a change.
How has your experience with breast cancer shifted your outlook on life?
Let's change that in a major way. I turned 50 in April, and that in and of itself is something challenging to process in a lot of ways. I turned out to be great, but then 4 months later, 5 months later, I'm diagnosed with breast cancer. And I remember laying on the radiologist's table and them just saying, "We need to look at these calcifications." And I burst into tears and said, "I have to be okay. I have an 8-year-old son." And you immediately start to look at things and life in a different way. It's in terms of being healthy or not healthy. And the rest of the things you can sort of deal with. So I'm trying to incorporate that every day and live by the Mel Robbins's let them, let me theory, but it is very much a work in progress.
What advice would you give to someone who has just been diagnosed with breast cancer?
Find people that you trust, that people you trust. But I made the mistake of talking to anyone and their mother. And most of the time, those people were amazing, super supportive. I felt empowered when I spoke to them. I remember one single mom who I spoke to, and I would encourage people to talk to people who are in similar situations because I was concerned about dating and those types of things. And that was great. But I talked to one person the week, I think, after I had made the decision of my specific course of treatment. And he just undercut everything that my doctor had said. And he talked to me in such a way that I remember I got off the phone and my college roommate and my mom were here. And I sat down and I said, "Oh my God, I don't know what to do now." And I started freaking out. And I went back to the woman who was the single mom, and she said to me, "You are making a decision to empower yourself. You're making a decision about your life." But in that moment, I knew I had to cut out some of the outside noise. So it's important to have a community, it's important to feel safe. But I would just say, don't go looking for too many different opinions because, as my breast surgeon told me, your journey is your journey, and that will each be different. But that would be my biggest piece of advice, I think.
Tell me three things you didn't know before your breast cancer diagnosis.
I think I didn't truly appreciate how resilient and strong I am. I definitely did not realize, even though you hear the stats, I never realized how many women this affects because every time I shared the diagnosis with people, and I am an overshare, um, I would have someone say, "Oh, my wife just had that," or "My sister-in-law just had it," or "I had it when I was 30." I had somebody come into my office at work in tears sharing that she had gone through it 15 years earlier. So you really don't understand how prevalent it is. And then I think the last thing was really I'm someone who tends to go cynical and I see the downsides and I go through dating and wondering things about that. And I don't think I fully appreciated how much love I have in my life and how loved I am. And it was so overwhelming and a beautiful thing that I actually appreciate it for that.
What do you wish people understood better about those living with or recovering from breast cancer?
It's really hard to know what to say to people who are living with cancer. I know that a lot of my friends and family, they were trying to be supportive and they came from a good place. And I know that 6 months ago, I would have said the exact same things to a friend who came to me. But every time somebody would say, "I'm so sorry," it would sound like I was dying, God forbid. And or you're so lucky because I know this person and she didn't get diagnosed early and you are so lucky, and you're thinking to yourself, "Oh my God, this just doesn't feel lucky right now," right? And so it's a balancing act, and I think the more people use resources um, to understand how to talk to people living with cancer, I think it would be better. As far as recovering, I think it would be helpful if people just let you sort of go back to who you were before without the cancer always being a thing. And I say that even though as I'm saying it to you, I think it's never going to be the same as it was before because my life's different now. Every time I go to the doctor, I feel a little bit nervous. I didn't feel like that before. But I don't want people to always ask me that the first time they see me or to say, "Oh my God, your chest looks amazing. That they did a great job." I'm still me, the same person I was before. So I know people are well intentioned, but I think in the recovery process, as much as you can go back to being who you were, not not forgetting about the cancer, you can acknowledge it, but I'm still the same person.
If there was one thing you could tell every woman about breast cancer, what would it be?
Not going to die because somebody tells you you have breast cancer. I think when I first got the news and the email, that was my immediate thought. Like I said, I tend to go negative, and the word cancer is just scary. Even though there's so many new treatments and advancements, you hear that and you think, oh my gosh, this is it. And so if more people understood that, it doesn't mean that at all necessarily. That's not to take away from people who are on a different journey and what feels like a harder journey than what I've had. Um, but you don't have to go to that place. And I was fortunate that my breast surgeon, he came in, he sat down and he was so empathetic and he looked at me and he said, "You're fine and you're going to be fine." And I needed that. But I think if more people knew that, it would go a long way.
What were you diagnosed with, and what is your treatment plan?
I was diagnosed with ductal carcinoma in situ. I think I'm butchering the Latin, but basically it's a non-invasive breast cancer in your milk ducts. Even though it's non-invasive, you can't leave it there, obviously. And so I had it in two places, and then a third place, it was abnormal, but would develop into that if it remained. So I had a unilateral mastectomy on the left side. The doctor also removed sentinel lymph nodes. And when they did the pathology after my surgery, they discovered I also had a stage one invasive breast cancer. Thankfully, it had not spread to my lymph nodes. It was not in the surgical margins. I had a follow up with an oncologist, and I am doing reconstruction. The follow up with the oncologist, they did my oncotype score, and it was very low, which meant I didn't or I wouldn't benefit from chemotherapy or radiation. So I'm on tamoxifen now, and I'll be on that until menopause, and then I'll switch to another medicine.
Share tips for women going through breast cancer.
Accept all the help. Whoever wants to help you, let them help you. If they want to take you to the doctor, if they want to watch your kid, walk your dog, do your laundry, just sit there for you, lay on the couch while you lay on the couch and watch bad TV. Let them do all of those things. I had one doctor's appointment. I think I must misspoke earlier. One doctor's appointment where my mom didn't come because I said to her, "Oh, I'm only going to be there for 15 minutes. I don't, it's fine." And I cried in the doctor's appointment because I wanted her to be there. And you don't realize that because you're so used to, I'm going to do this on my own. So I would definitely say accept the help. Um, don't Google because Googling is somebody else's story, somebody else's journey. I'm not a doctor. And unless you are a breast cancer surgeon or a breast oncologist, it's just going to lead you down a path that's probably not productive. Um, I would also say if there are people though in your life who know about the science, like I talked about my friend who has a science background, have them sit in on a doctor's appointment. Ask them, what does it mean if the doctor says that this is estrogen positive, or right? Because you think, oh, I'm smart, I can figure this out, I know what they're talking about. And sometimes you literally have no idea what they're talking about because it's you, and also because you're not a doctor. So I think lean on people for those sorts of tips. And then I would say just give yourself grace to experience all the things you're feeling. I have a very, very close friend who has pancreatic cancer. And I didn't tell him that what I was going through until I knew that I was fine. And he said to me one day, I know you're super rah rah and positive, but you have to give yourself a second to feel sad or angry or whatever it is that's going on with you. So I just encourage everyone to give themselves that space.